Hi everybody, it's your life science slash biology teacher, Mr. Poser, and today we are continuing our life science slash biology class by getting into Unit 7, which is on heredity. And our first topic that we're going to discuss in this unit is chromosomes and inheritance. Two ideas that we've talked about in the past before. So in our Unit 6 was on gene expression. So what is DNA? How is it built? How does it copy itself? What is its job? Okay, and then how does it carry out its job? How is DNA used to make proteins, and how is DNA used by cells? Something else that we talked about last unit was that your DNA really determines also, who you are and what you are, and the genes that are expressed by different cells determine what those cells do. As well. So in this unit on heredity, we're going to be focusing on how do those genes, the instructions for making proteins, get passed on from one organism to the next? What is heredity? What is inheritance? How does that all work, and how do you become you? Which is also going to lead into our next unit, which is on evolution. All right, so this first question that I'm going to ask you here today is, how is cell division and reproduction like moving? If you've been paying attention in my class, then you've heard me use this analogy before to talk about chromosomes and cell division. All right, so think about that for a second. Keep that in the back of your mind while we're going through the rest of this video. The first two bullet points over here are kind of encapsulating what some of the big questions are for this entire unit and last unit and kind of next unit a little bit. So you get your parents from your biological parent, or your traits, excuse me. You get your traits from your biological parents and your earlier ancestors. We've known this for a long time, but it wasn't until about the mid 20th century that we figured out how this actually happened. We've known for a while that, like, oh, if you got blue eyes, your kids are probably going to have blue eyes, and so on and so forth. Second post here is that your heritable traits are a unique combination of your biological mother's and your biological father's traits, right? So you have a complete set of DNA that's split up on 46 chromosomes that you have. That's your diploid number. We're going to find out what that means here in a second. But your combination of genes, your combinations of instructions for proteins are completely different from anybody else who's ever existed, right? Or will ever exist. You are completely unique, right? And when you have kids, if you have kids someday, half of your traits and half of your partner's traits are going to be combined together to form a completely new, once again, a completely new set of traits and completely new set of genes. All right, but how does this happen? How did your parents give you those traits? How do you pass on those traits? Well, really, it's carried through what we call chromosomes, and we've talked about chromosomes before in our Unit 5 when we started on mitosis, right? So during mitosis, if you don't recall, that's when a cell copies all of its DNA. It packages its DNA into chromosomes, into nice, neat little strands, nice, neat little X-shaped thingies. And then it splits them up evenly between itself and a new cell, and then each cell has a brand new set of DNA. That's mitosis. And the crucial step in that is packaging its DNA into chromosomes. And really, what you inherit, how do you get those genes? What transaction is occurring between your parents and you and your kids that you might eventually have someday? It's really passing down the chromosomes. Okay, each one of your cells has 46 chromosomes. 23 of them you got from mom. 23 of them you got from dad. Okay, so all of these chromosomes have hundreds to maybe thousands of genes that make up your genome, right? Half of it you got from mom. Half of it you got from dad, okay, and that makes up your genes and your chromosomes, and you have 46 of them, okay. And this is what chromosomes look like, especially when they're organized. So human chromosomes can be organized into pairs in a karyotype. So this is a picture of a karyotype. As you can see, these strand-looking things that have little stripes on them, and those stripes are genes, by the way. Each one of these is a pair of what we call homologous chromosomes. And as you can see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we count all the way down here 22, and then XY makes it 23. So that is what we call a karyotype. And this is somebody's chromosomes all organized out by pairs, by matching pairs here. And those pairs are called homologous chromosomes. So it says pairs of chromosomes, one from mom, one from dad, that have the same length and appearance are called homologous chromosomes. And by as you can see from my label here, this is a human male karyotype, and we're going to talk about how we know that is in just a second here. So as we said, humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, which makes 46 total. 22 out of 23 of those pairs are what we call autosomes, and those are chromosomes that contain the genes that are not related to the sex of an organism, right? So almost everything about you is determined by these 22 pairs of chromosomes, right? And once again, you get one from mom, one from dad, 23 or 20, yeah, 23 different times, right? These first 22 do not determine sex. These last two determine biological sex. And I just want to be clear here, I'm referring to biological sex, not sociological gender. Okay? Sex chromosomes are chromosomes that directly determine sex characteristics. So these are the chromosomes that determine whether or not you are biologically male or whether or not you are biologically female. Okay, so biological males have XY chromosomes, biological males have XX, two X chromosomes, right? Which means that I am biologically male. I inherited one X chromosome from my mom, and I inherited one Y chromosome from my dad. Okay? If you are biologically female, you inherited one X chromosome from your mom and another X chromosome from your dad. Okay? That's why they are called sex chromosomes, is that they help determine biological sex. The other 22 pairs are called autosomes. All right? Do all of your cells have these chromosomes? And the answer is, well, most of them do. Most cells in your body are what we call diploid, and these cells are called somatic cells. They're regular old body cells that divide by mitosis. So your liver cells, your muscle cells, your neurons, your intestinal lining cells, epidermal cells, all that kind of stuff. Those are what we call diploid. And in the nucleus of each of those cells, they have two sets of chromosomes. And the symbol that we use to denote a diploid cell with two sets of chromosomes, meaning that in a human being you'd have 46, it is 2N. 2N represents diploid. Okay? So almost all the cells in your body, with the exception of sex cells, are diploid. Okay? Cells that only have one set of chromosomes, they are called gametes. And gametes are sex cells that combine to form new diploid cells with a unique combination of chromosomes. Okay, so you may or may not have heard of these cells before if you've ever taken a health class, but gametes fall into two categories when it comes to human beings. They are sperm cells and egg cells. Okay, and now what's key about these cells is that they are not diploid. They only have one set of chromosomes. Okay, so think about that for a second. Why would a sperm cell or an egg cell only have one set of chromosomes? And why do you make them? Well, it's to reproduce, right? To have children, right? So why do they only have one set of chromosomes? Well, that's because when they fuse, right, during fertilization, that's called sperm and egg combine, you take one cell with one set of chromosomes, and you take another cell with another set of chromosomes, you combine them together, and you get a diploid cell. Okay, so sperm and egg cells are called haploid, and they each have one set of chromosomes. So how do you get your half of your mom's traits and half of your dad's traits? Well, egg cells have 23 chromosomes, sperm cells have 23 chromosomes, and when you combine them together, you get a new combination of 46 that's never been seen before, and that will make you, right? So when fertilization occurs, these two sets of chromosomes from two different organisms, one from mom, one from dad, form to become a diploid zygote, and that's going to be important to remember with the name of that cell. It is a zygote, which grows and divides to become a fully functional organism, right? So everybody starts off life as just being one cell, right? And that cell is called a zygote, and that is diploid because you combine one and you make two, right? And how does that zygote become a fully functional human being? That was the topic of our Unit 5, right? Cell division and cell differentiation, right? They divide and divide and divide. They get new jobs. They express different genes, okay? They take different parts of those 23 sets of chromosomes, take different genes from them, and express them to become different cells, and then you end up with you. There you go. But yeah, those are going to be some important terms to remember. Now, the process by which we make those gametes, okay? Now think about this for a second. If we were, if we were bacterial cells, or if we were like, I don't know, amoebas or algae or something like that, we would just be able to copy all of our DNA, copy all of our organelles and organs if we're human beings, and then we'd just be able to split up and make a copy of ourselves. And that's not what happens, obviously, right? So as human beings, we undergo sexual reproduction, right? And that is not possible without making gametes. And that process is called meiosis, which is a type of cell division that produces 4 haploid gametes. Remember, haploid means one set of chromosomes from one diploid cell, and that's going to be the topic of our next video. Is this meiosis? How are these sperm cells and egg cells made, and how do they get new genetic material so that when they combine with an egg or when they combine with a sperm, when they combine together and form a zygote, they have a completely new set of DNA. That will be the topic of our next video here. Okay, so meiosis is going to be producing those sex cells. All right. Before we go, let's talk about this question here. How is cell division and reproduction like moving? If you know the answer, great. If you don't, stay tuned. We're going to chat about it. DNA must be packaged into 23 chromosomes like your stuff is packaged into boxes. It's unpackaged once it's in the new house or new apartment, right? So every time cell division occurs, that DNA needs to be packaged and condensed and put into boxes, much like your stuff in your old house or your old apartment must be packaged up into boxes before it can be shipped over and unpacked in the new apartment or new house. All right. So this is something that we've talked about before in Unit 5 if you've been paying attention in life science, especially in Unit 5. All right. So yeah, next video is on meiosis. Please let me know if you have any questions. Have a great rest of your day.